Nicola, and I wanted to pop on because I had this really awesome conversation with someone, a client of mine this morning, and I think it's really relevant for so many of us because this is something that happens all the time, which is when we're on a spiritual journey or a growth path, or we've been doing therapy or whatever other modality you've been doing, we feel like we're making progress and that we complete with things like, I used to be a perfectionist, but now I don't do that anymore. And that's really can oftentimes be our goal, is to kind of free ourselves from these old patterns and habits that get in the way. But often, what I see happening in myself, and certainly with the people I sit with in my office, is that we will complete something and then that something comes back, that behavior, that pattern, that strategy, that judgment, that thought, whatever that might be. And we can get it can lead us to getting really down about ourselves. I know for me, I have made up some pretty significant stories when patterns that I thought I was complete with, and I'm using air quotes because I don't believe in that anymore, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But when I thought that I had moved through something and it had completed, and then I saw it coming back into my field, back into my life, coming back into my world, into my thoughts, I would get really down on myself and I would make up some pretty harsh stories about what that said about me. That it means that I'm so broken, I'm never going to get out of this, that other people can get there and I can't because I'm so effed up, um, that I didn't do it right or well enough, whatever it was. I didn't work hard enough, I didn't try hard enough, or that this is just who I am and I can't grow beyond it. And so we can get really critical. And what I'm here to tell you is that these patterns have been with you since you were most likely very, very young. And honestly, in the collective consciousness, these patterns of fear and judgment and anger and resistance have been with us for centuries, if not millennia. And so when we start clearing these patterns out of our consciousness and out of our, when we start choosing a different frequency, kind of like changing the radio channel, we can experience a new way of being, which is amazing until bam, the old ways come crawling back in, which happens. And so, really, what I want to invite you to consider is that these patterns will release in layers. And each layer that we touch into is a little bit more subtle than the layer before. It's a little bit more insidious, but it's also can be held with more lightness and more recognition. We're familiar with it now. Maybe we're not as scared of it anymore, or we actually have a heartfelt relationship with this part of us. Like for me, that wants to be a perfectionist or doesn't ever. I have a part of me that's really afraid of ever doing something wrong, and so I can really spin out on that. And so there were a couple of different, relatively small scenarios this week that would have maybe sent me down a rabbit hole of I did it wrong and therefore the wrongness of me. But I took a moment and I was like, oh, this is just a residue. It's like a little dust bunny of that pattern where I used to spiral out and really think I was a terrible human and I just needed to work harder to do it right so I didn't upset somebody in the future. And I was actually able to, after years of practice, mind you, meet these moments with some lightness and a little giggle and real true appreciation of that person who brought me this learning opportunity, because those people, whoever they are for you in your life. And I'm really, but honestly, from my heart, grateful for that opportunity to release another residue, another dust bunny. And I like calling them dust bunnies because I've done the spring cleaning. I moved the boulders and the avalanches, and I've cleaned out the closet, and everything's swept and shiny. But maybe I didn't move the couch. Maybe a little ball of dog hair got stuck under in a nook or a cranny or in a corner somewhere. And so this is the opportunity to really look at it, embrace it, love yourself anyway, love myself anyway, and release that next layer. And so the next time you find yourself frustrated that a pattern that you've been working with or working on, trying to help move that energy for you, comes back through, that you could really honor yourself and whatever the circumstances that brought you to this place, and just celebrate, oh, here's the next layer that I get to release, rather than thinking that healing or completing is this finite thing. Like we were over here with all this mess, and then we just complete it all and we never touch it again, and we never see it, and never comes into our consciousness. And when we start doing this, we start vibrating at a higher level, and we start being able to clear some of these residues and remnants in the collective consciousness. So it actually, comes through you, for you, but also for all of humanity. And it's a really big deal what you're doing. Whatever it is that you're doing, to look at your shadow side, to look at your parts, to look at yourself honestly and fully and completely, and maybe even take a breath, be present. Maybe you can feel some genuine compassion or understanding for that part of you, and really just allow it to be present. And that's what lets it move through the system and release and transmute back into the only frequency that's real, which is pure love. So thank you so much for joining me today. Please tell me, is there somewhere you've been getting stuck or frustrated with yourself or your process? I'd love to support you in this way. If you want to jump into a deeper conversation, I do offer different memberships, and we meet online live once a month. And there is a women's retreat coming up here in Durango, Colorado in June 20th through 23rd of 2024. So if you're interested in joining me, I would love to see you there, because we are really going to play with resetting these neural pathways. Okay, that's the sound that I am out of time. So thanks so much for joining, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.